everybody for coming out. Quite proud. Let me thank Cynthia Fisher, Diego for the music. Thank you.
We're hard hearing. Turn the mic up.
What I'd like to do is just chat for a very few minutes, and then open it up to your comments and your questions. I don't have to explain to anybody in this room that we're living in an unprecedented moment in modern American history. And if you stay up nights worrying, you're not alone. Tens of millions of people share the same concerns. And it's a combination, I think, of factors that put us in the moment that we're in. Number one, we have, in my view, a president of the United States who is mentally unstable, who does not believe in the Constitution or the rule of law, an authoritarian type, who is a kleptocrat, having made several $1 billion for his family since he's returned to office, who is a narcissist, who, if he had his way, I think would name half the buildings in America after himself. And then he had some other problems, but I'll leave it at that. But that's one part, but it's not the only part of why I think people are concerned. And I want to hear your views in a minute. Number two, and not a lot of people talk about this. I do. Go all over the country talking about it. You are living at a moment in American history where we have never had a situation where so few people held so much wealth and so much power. Now, you know, when we were kids in school, remember we studied the Gilded Age?
Oh, yeah.
That was the late 19th century, and you had Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan and Jay Gould and all these very powerful zillionaires. Income and wealth inequality today is much, much worse than it was back in the Gilded Age. You got the top 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 93%. Got that? 1%, 93%. You got one man, a good friend, Mr. Musk, himself, one man, owning more wealth than the bottom 50% of American households. And that gap between the very, very rich and everybody else is getting wider and wider. Now, it's not just income and wealth inequality, it's power. What does that mean? It means that there's an unprecedented concentration of ownership in the economy. Never before have so few entities owned such a significant part of the economy. Very hard for small businesses to survive. But then on top of all that, what concerns me a whole lot is these, as a result of this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision, these billionaires are now undermining American democracy and buying elections. So in the last presidential election, as many of you know, our friend Mr. Musk spent over $270 million to elect Trump as president. And other billionaires, both from the Democratic and Republican parties, use their money to influence what candidates say and who wins, who loses, and what happens in Washington. So people all over the country say, well, Bernie, what's going on? Why isn't Congress doing this or that? And the answer is that to a significant degree, Congress is owned by very, very wealthy people and campaign contributors. That's just the fact of life. So if you ask why we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people, it has everything to do with the power of the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical industry and all of their campaign contributions. If you ask why we are not doing more in terms of climate change, check out what the fossil fuel industry does in terms of campaign contributions. And there's one issue I want to talk about in a minute, and that is AI and robotics. All right? And all over the country, you're seeing people standing up in one way or the other expressing concerns about this rapidly moving transformational technology. And people say, well, what is Congress doing about it? Well, take a look at the $200 or so million that the AI industry is spending on campaigns, and you'll find out why Congress is not doing what it should be doing. And then on top of all that stuff, you got a president who thinks that climate change is a hoax, when the last 11 years have been the warmest on record. And what we're looking at right now are heat waves in America, Europe, all over the world. You're looking at forest fires, terrible, out-of-control forest fires. You're looking at flash flooding, etc., etc. Climate change is not a hoax. It is an existential threat. So you add all of that stuff up, and people say, wow, what is going on? How do we get out of it? All right, that's the bad news. Let me give you some good news. You ready for some good news? All over this country, New York City, California, Florida, Minnesota, Michigan, people are taking on these oligarchs. A good friend of mine from Michigan, Dr. Abdul El-Sayed. Abdul had $60 million in super PAC money spent against him. He won. Friend of mine in Minnesota, Peggy Flanagan, outspent 5-1. She won. Another friend of mine, Mayor Zohran Mamdani in New York City, heavily outspent, took on the Democratic establishment, the Republican establishment, the president, the oligarchs in New York City. He won. And Tuesday night, I just spoke to her yesterday. We're going to do an event with her tonight, as a matter of fact, after we get back to Burlington. A woman named Angie Nixon. This is unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. This woman was outspent 16-1. Wow. She didn't have enough money in Florida, which is a pretty big state, to put a TV ad on. One. She won by 12 points. So, and it's not just those. I can tell you of all kinds all over the country. You have trade unionists winning in Montana, in Ohio. Guys who have never run for office again. We had a young woman named Milat Kiros in Colorado. She's, I don't know how old, she's 30 years of age, never ran for anything. She took on a 15-term incumbent and won a very strong victory. So what all of that tells me, and more, all of that tells me is that all over this country, people understand that the same old is not good enough anymore. That we have enormous problems, that we need some bold, new thinking. We need to analyze why we are where we are at, and we need an agenda that speaks to the needs of working families, the elderly, the children. And that's what we're trying to do all over the country. And that is very, very good news. So, all right, let me, what I want to do, if it's okay with you, I'll ask you a question, you ask me a question. How's that? All right, one of the issues that I have become obsessed with, among many others, is the issue of artificial intelligence. Very few people will deny that AI is the most transformational technology in the history of humanity. It will impact every man, woman, and child in our country and eventually the world. There are positive aspects of AI, but there are many concerns that I have and the American people have. So the issues that worry me, and nobody knows, this thing is moving so quickly that what was true yesterday may not be true today. And nobody, quite frankly, has all of the answers. The debates and everything I'm going to tell you. But for a start, we worry about what AI does to the economy, okay? There are people out there, and I believe this to be true, who say that if not tomorrow, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10 years, maybe in 20 years, or shorter, AI will be able to do everything that you can do better than you can do it. Got that? So every worker that's out there could theoretically be replaced by AI. Mr. Musk, who I neither like nor trust, but who's not an idiot, he believes that his view is that, quote unquote, work will become optional in X number of years. That AI and robotics will be able to do all of the work. And they're planning on building millions and millions and millions of robots, by the way. All right? So the impact that AI has on the economy, and robotics have on the economy. Robots are developing every single day. They're going to be in factories, they're going to be in warehouses. Give you another example. Anybody here ever drive in a driverless car? Okay,
No way.
I was out in San Francisco, I was in a Waymo, and it works. If we don't think about how we go forward, there are some 6 million jobs in transportation. That is truck drivers, cab drivers, Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, bus drivers. If we do not think about it, those jobs will be eliminated in the next number of years. There are right now 18-wheelers, huge trucks, barreling down highways in Texas right now without a driver in it. Okay? So you got that's one
Not moving
aspect.
to Texas.
Many of the young people who graduate college today want to go, get a job someplace. They start off at an entry level. Well, that job is no longer there, et cetera, et cetera. So you got the economic aspect of what AI and robotics does. Mr. Bezos
Yeah.
wants to spend $100 billion, quote unquote, automating factories in America. You know what that means? No more manufacturing jobs. Okay. But it's not just the economy. Privacy. We are not very far away from AI and the internet knowing everything that you do, knowing where you are, every visit you've made to a doctor, your financial transactions, the phone calls that you make. You got all kinds of surveillance apparatus, stock is out there, et cetera, et cetera. So the whole issue of privacy rights and what remains of your privacy is a concern. AI is a threat to democracy. Right now, I don't know how many people spend time on the internet. There will be stuff where Bernie Sanders is talking, except what I'm saying, I never said. Right? Because they are now capable of putting up videos that really are quite good, and people will not know the difference between truth and fiction. And we're already seeing that. How do you deal with that? Okay? It's not just blatant lies, it is really well done stuff that you will not know the difference from truth or fiction. So we're worried about the undermining of American democracy when you have lies out there. It's already taken place. There was a guy who was running for re-election, Republican guy from Kentucky, and they put up a video of having him walking into a hotel room with 2 women. All right, it was a lie, complete lie, and it worked to some degree. How do you deal with that? Is the issue of mental health and children. You got kids out there, if you can believe it, 40% of kids under 2 years of age now have screens.
Yep. Exactly.
What does it mean to social interaction? How we react to other people as human beings. If you're a kid, and you're spending 8 hours a day on your screen, how do you, and I can tell you, it's not just me, younger people often have a hard time reacting to other people. They can't deal with conflict. They can't deal with telephones because they're busy texting. So human interaction becomes more and more difficult for a whole lot of people. And then you got warfare. The nature of warfare, drones radically changed. Will AI determine, the nature of warfare? Who are we going to war with? How are we fighting wars? Out of human control. And then I talked to a guy who was a Nobel Prize physicist, one of the architects of AI. And what his view is that as AI becomes smarter than humans, and it's just a question of time when that will take place. Although my wife says that's a very low bar. But will AI become independent of human control? We have seen some instances of this in the last month where AI has in fact escaped human control, hacked into computers in a way that it wasn't supposed to do, etc. So that's a lot of stuff, and the problem is it is moving very, very quickly. AI is not linear. It's every day it builds on its own intelligence. So this is a real issue, and clearly Congress has not addressed it. The American people are upset. We're seeing responses to data centers all over the country, these huge entities, etc. All right, so let me start off on AI, and then we'll go. Then you asked me a question. All right, responses on AI. All right, I see a hand right here. Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Will Foster with, do you think Vermont should tax AI data center energy consumption, especially all AI coming from outside of
We
Vermont?
don't have any data centers yet in Vermont.
No, but outside centers. If you use AI, then you have to pay for the
I wouldn't do, I mean, there are ways to deal with it. It's not the way that I would deal with it. We have proposed a moratorium on the construction of data centers. We proposed a sovereign wealth fund where the public would own half of the major AI companies. And recently we came out with something that I will introduce when Congress reconvenes, is we got to pause this development, got to work with China, other countries, to make sure that AI does not become independent of human control. That's kind of the areas that I'm working on. Okay, questions from you on any issue? Gentlemen, right here.
I just want to thank you for coming to Brattleboro.
Please wait for the
my
mic.
pleasure.
Give him the mic.
The question that I have for you is.
Wait for the mic. Wait.
Can I go turn it around to 28?
You consider a run.
Well, I think that's quite, as some of you may know, I am not yet, I'm not 28 years of age or 40 years of age. I ran twice, and proud of what we have accomplished. There are a lot of, yeah, we should be. I think I laid the groundwork for a lot of what you're saying today. And I am. I'm very proud that people like Nani and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Angie Nixon worked on my campaign, so they got a good training, and now they're doing great. All right, other questions? Yes, ma'am. There's a mic coming right by your side.
She wants me to hold this close to my mouth. Here we go. My name is Karen Blanchard. I live in Westminster, and I'm very I'm very concerned actually about Iran, and I know I saw you on Face the Nation, and it seems to me that you need to be able to bring senators together for the memorandum of understanding to bring peace to that area. One of the things that we have forgotten is that Mossadegh was democratically elected in Iran many years ago.
Yep.
We put in the Shah, and out of that came the mullahs. So we need to do something about bringing peace to that
Thank you
area.
very much for raising that issue. One of the things that progressives around the country are talking about are foreign policy. In terms of Iran, what's going on there is outrageous. It is unconstitutional. It is legal. President of the United States does not have the right, allied with Israel, to simply bomb a country because he wants to bomb it. That war is based on a total lie. I don't know, they change their tune every day, but the idea that Iran was going to attack the United States and they had a nuclear weapon in 2 weeks is all nonsense. But I want also to pick up on your point in terms of foreign policy, which is a nation we don't talk about very much. When some of us were kids, the war that did so much damage to our generation was Vietnam. And it was just not that 59,000 young men were killed over there. It's not just that God knows probably millions of people in the area were killed or wounded. You know, those guys came home to a VA which was unable to deal with them at that time. VA is much better right now. Probably more than 59,000 died on the streets of America with drugs and everything else. That war was based on a lie. Okay? The war in Iraq was based, remember Saddam Hussein had nuclear weapons? Based on a lie. The war in Iran is based on a lie. So what we have to begin to understand is we need a totally, and it's tough stuff, it's a crazy world out there. But it does bother me, not only putting tens of billions of dollars into Netanyahu's extremist government in Israel, but allying ourselves. Where did Trump's first foreign policy visit? Anyone remember? Where did he go? Saudi Arabia. You know what Saudi Arabia is? It is a vicious oligarchic dictatorship. And the guy who's head of it actually murdered a journalist from the Washington Post. All right, that's our ally. And Qatar is our ally. And UAE is our ally. Well, that's not what this country is supposed to be about. We're supposed to be a democratic country that allies ourselves and supports and respects other democratic countries. So foreign policy is a huge issue, and you're right about Iran.
Might you work with other senators?
All right, the issue, of course we're working with other senators. The problem touches on another issue. And, within the Republican Party, I don't want to spend my whole life talking about this thing, but you have, to a significant degree, it may be changing right now, a cult of the individual. So do you think that most Republicans go back home, they do meetings like this, and you don't think they're hearing from their constituents? Who in various ways, Mississippi is not Vermont, but people are saying, why the hell are you spending billions of dollars killing children in Gaza or Iran when we can't get our streets paved here, we can't have healthcare education, right? All over the country, you're getting some, but the problem right now in the Republican Party, and it may be changing a little bit, is that Trump is able to threaten Republican members of Congress with a primary if they stand up to him. So that's the danger that we have.
Stephen Miller, don't you think?
Well, that's a bad news. Okay. All right, other questions? Yeah, ma'am, right here.
You are the one senator that's going at this in Iran the right way. You're going for the principled, peace first approach. And we thank you for that. I'm not the only one here saying that, I'm sure. You are critical as an independent. Your voice is critical for pushing on this. Will you use your power, as you spoke, in your unique position and lead a joint statement from those senators, doubling down on the call for the return to the MOU and diplomacy with Iran, please?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we are going to do everything we can, and I think as the election comes closer, I think you can see more and more anti-war sentiment and a demand. I mean, this war has killed thousands of people in Iran, in Lebanon. We've lost 18 members of the United States military. It's going to cost us hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. So yeah, we're going to do everything we can to end this terrible war as quickly as we can. Okay, I see a hand way in the back there. Yeah, ma'am? Okay, actually, it's the person behind you there. Okay.
Hello, Senator. My name is Renee Walliver. I'm from Senior Solutions, and I had the opportunity to meet with their staff in DC and talk a little bit about what Mary Luzerne at the Administration on Aging at the federal level, talking about rural health and AI, and putting a lot of money and funding and effort and policy into changing the rural health initiative through AI and having seniors access services through AI. Can you talk a little bit about that and where that might be? I know she was just appointed from
Honestly,
acting to permanent.
I can't talk about that. I'm not as familiar with that as I should. What I do know related to that is that Trump, as you know, in giving $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1% through 15 million people off of health care, mostly Medicaid, but raising the cost of the Affordable Care Act, in some cases doubling it or tripling it, which has caused huge pressure on healthcare facilities all over this country. What I will also mention is we are working desperately, and I know Memorial Hospital here is running into some serious problems, but we are working hard, and I think after I leave here, I'm going to be over at the dental program here in Brattleboro. What? Okay. They're going to be working with a community health center from Springfield. So the goal here was to bring a community health center down here. We're still working on it. We have expanded primary health care all over the state. Actually, Windham County was maybe the last part of the state that we have not yet done. So we continue to work on it. We run into some obstacles with the financial problems of Memorial. Gentleman right here. Yeah.
I want to thank you for so much, but you've been very outspoken about Gaza, and you've also been outspoken about Sudan and the Emirates' support for the Rapid Support Forces. Mayor Mamdani has pointed to you as his principal guiding light for politics, and I want to thank you for that as well. Mayor Mamdani has spoken out eloquently about Gaza, but is silent about Sudan. The matter is made worse by the fact that he's often seen wearing Emirates logos at events. So he's involved in the Emirates sports washing. So I just have two points. One, if you see him, kind of say to him, stop wearing those logos, it's not cool, all right? And also speak out about what's going on in Sudan, the role of the Emirates. Secondly, the NBA and others are highly dependent or become addicted to Emirati money.
Yes.
So they have the Emirati Cup and the referees wear Emirates stuff and so on. Would you also speak out about the NBA and others who are taking that blood money because this is all deeply tied to the
Good. I think
genocide?
you raised a very good point. There has not been. What's going on is, Trump is a money guy. He goes where the money is and how he and his family can make money. And that's why they went to Saudi Arabia. That's why he has a $400 million plane from Qatar. UAE, as I recall, it's an unbelievable fact. It's a small country run by an extraordinarily wealthy family, a dictatorship. Do you know what the population of the UAE is? Anybody know? What makes the UAE population unusual? 90% of the people are migrant laborers. 90%. I'm quite sure of that. Somebody can double check it. So everybody, poor people from Pakistan or wherever coming to do the work, but these guys are incredibly wealthy, and those are the kind of folks that Trump likes. And they're bad news guys. They're anti-woman, they torture people, and no one talks about it. You hear very little, I talk about it. But because they are so powerful and they have so much money, and they're smart, they know how to spread their money around. And sports is one way that they are doing it. So your point is very well taken. It is an issue we will work on it. When I talk to the mayor, I will mention your comments. All right. Yeah, right over there, sir.
John Field from Putney. Thanks for coming, Bernie. Your endorsement of candidates wields enormous power. You've already endorsed over 90 progressive candidates nationwide for the 2026 midterms, from congressional candidates to more than 50 state and local candidates. And here in Vermont, you did endorse David Zuckerman in the past several times for lieutenant governor and governor. Amanda Janeau, our wonderfully progressive candidate for governor, she embodies so many of the values that you stand for, like healthcare as a public good, homes for Vermonters, not for investors, taxing the 1%, and fighting data centers. We've had 10 long years of a backward Republican governor. Your endorsement of Amanda Janeau would inspire thousands of Vermonters to vote for her. Will you endorse Amanda?
Most of the people, you're right, we have endorsed dozens and dozens. Most of them are kind of young people running for state legislature, and they are, in a sense, the farm team for the future, and that's important. We have not, we've endorsed, I can't remember, maybe 15 members of the House, and there's now 3 or 4 members of the United States Senate. So we don't, in terms of governor's races, don't do it all the time, but I will be talking to Amanda.
Thank you.
Yes. got a mic right next to you.
When I was in high school, I remember hearing sonic booms and thinking it was the bomb because we were so afraid that Russia was going to bomb us.
I remember
And I
that.
remember a phrase that they would get us from within. And I see that happening now. My question is there any way to convince Republicans that if they really took advantage of their power in Congress, they would have more power than this man? Is there a way to let them know that and get them?
Well, thank you for your question. And again, look, in a democracy, people have different points of view. In this room, there are different points of view. The difference between Republicans, Democrats, progressives, conservatives. That's called democracy. But as I mentioned earlier, what has really concerned me about the Republican Party is the degree to which they have become afraid. They're not stupid people, and I know many of them. You know, if you talk to them privately, they will acknowledge that Trump is a bit crazy and so forth. And you also notice that after they lose and decide not to run again, they become very, very brave. But here's how I think change comes about. I'll give you some examples that should cheer you up a little bit. In terms of AI and data centers, you're now seeing Republicans all over the country, including a very conservative governor in Texas, who's running for re-election. He's in a tough election, and suddenly, after welcoming data centers in, wanting to make Texas the center of data center world, he now has real concerns. You know why he has real concerns? Because conservative rural people in Texas say, we don't want these things. Okay? You're seeing, I just saw an ad today, actually, where was it, in Wisconsin, I think. The Republican is criticizing the Democrat for being too sympathetic to data centers. So what happens, the way that I do politics, and I think in the long run it's the way that works, when you get the grassroots moving, if Republicans have to go to meetings like this and hear people saying, why the hell are you funding a war? Or why are you supporting AI? That's how you bring about change. And I think consciousness is changing in this country. The problems are so serious that it is hard for almost anybody to ignore them and not to understand that we cannot continue going down the same path, whether it's foreign policy or domestic policy. How many Americans do you believe think that it's appropriate to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and throw 15 million people off the health care? I doubt that there are 2% of the American people who think that makes sense, all right? So I think you're seeing at the grassroots level, not only among progressives, among conservatives as well, an understanding that this country has serious, serious problems and we've got to move in a different direction. Okay, woman right here, yeah.
Okay. My concern is in the health, definitely. But what seems to be happening, and I personally, being in the health field myself, I have patients who also have seen it, is the marriage between the control by the insurance companies. They need to see a doctor for parasites. I'll see you in October. Could you please order a lab test? You have to come in before I can see you. And I think you know the whole story. I won't take up time. Yes. And I and my clients are now paying out of pocket to go to alternative naturopaths, homeopaths, acupuncturists to heal because the medical community won't even treat systems, which of course is what they do.
All right, look, I go